Chapter 53. For the next 17 days, Dell, and I become experts in the green garden trash cans. In our town, trash is separated with blue cans for recycling and green for anything from the yard. Black is for everything else. My first observation: the green receptacles are not always filled with just cut grass and dead flowers. I found spaghetti in there and all kinds of other objectable things. Some of them beyond creepy, but for the most part, the people of Bakersfield, California are following the rules of rubbish, meaning that they are tossing their garden waste in the right direction. And this stuff is mostly alive. Patty doesn't want any more tubs or containers in the apartment. She put her foot down on that. And Dell only has his room down the hall, where Sadhu has strict rules. Again, Kwang Ha is the one who has the answer. Take everything up onto the roof. No one goes up there. He hasn't been back since we put the broken glass on the skylight, but he obviously remembers what a wide open space it is. So now there are pots and containers all over the flat space. With the rooting hormone and so much full sun and water, I've got a mini nursery going. And then we lose almost all of the plants. There is a light rain, and someone named S. Godot in Unit 21 reports a small leak in the ceiling in his bathroom. He calls the bank, and they don't notify the building rep. They notify the repairman. Patty and I are at the salon, and of course I know nothing about this until it is all too late. A roofer comes and can't make heads or tails out of the containers with the cuttings. To him, it just looks like a big mess that is getting in the way of an area he needs to tar. He gets back in touch with the bank, and apparently someone named Chad Dewey says that nothing should be up there. So the workers gather all of the plants that are growing, or at least trying to form roots, and carry them downstairs, where they are deposited in the dumpster. I came home to the crime scene. Today the city picked up the trash. I have to piece together the sequence of events, and when I get to the bottom of it, I believe that the plant loss is not just a defeat, it's a sign. I'm not really going to live at the Gardens of Glenwood for much longer. Very soon I'm going to be placed in a foster home. I'm going to be sent back to school. What's going on here will end. For me, at least. When I go see Dell for counseling the next day, I tell him, I can't return to the past. Having a garden in the courtyard will not ever be the same as what was in my backyard at home. Dell only nods and looks sweaty. Later, I see Dell hand Maya an envelope when he comes over for dinner. And then when I go to bed, I find the note on my pillow. It reads, Willow, when they find the place for you, and it will be a great place and it will be right for you, I know that. I want you to try and take Cheddar with you. I will call Lenore and say that the cat is a therapy dog. Yours in friendship, Dell Duke. He said that the cat was a therapy dog. I appreciate his support, but I sincerely hope he's not running this show. 2 days pass, and instead of taking the bus home from the nail salon, I go to South Side Nursery. I find Henry and I explain about the sunflowers and losing my clippings, and I ask for advice. He has to go into the back because a truck is delivering something. I wait. There are cartons of ladybugs for sale on the counter, and I decide to buy one. They are usually burnt orange, but as I peer through the mesh that covers the container, the little bugs moving around in curls of wood look bright red. I know what Patty would say. Lucky. And she would be right, because only a few minutes later, Henry comes back in and says he's going to help me. He'll stop by after work and take a look at what I've got going on. I feel relieved, which feels strange. I walk back to the Gardens of Glenwood, and I try to move in a very careful way because I don't want to jiggle the ladybugs. When I come through the door, Kwang Ha, who is on the couch as usual, sees the container in my hands and says, Did you bring home food? I say, I brought home insects. But I smile, and I don't realize it until I catch sight of myself in the mirror. I'm surprised. I look different when I smile. Maybe everyone does. I don't go to the nail salon this morning. I stay back to wait for the plant delivery. Henry came yesterday and took a look. He said he'd bring me some things. But it's not just the regular nursery van that arrives at 10:07. What pulls up is a large truck, and there's a forklift in the back. A van follows with 4 workers. I go out onto the street, and Henry and his cousin Phil are just lowering the liftgate. In the truck, I see a big box of timber bamboo. It is being transported on its side, standing upright. It would be over 20 feet tall. There are other plants in the truck. Pink striped phorium, diverse selection of flowering vines to climb up to the metal poles to the second story, ground cover, even a 3-year-old cherry tree. I am overwhelmed. But there isn't time to express it because there's a lot to be done. The 4 workers cut down the sunflowers. This would have been sad, except that it isn't now. We decide to hang the long stalks from the second floor balcony. The large flowers are the size of human heads. The bright yellow petals are now dried and the centers dark. Henry has green twine, and I'm in charge of that project, while down below, the workers dig a huge hole because this bamboo they brought is serious business. While I'm tying the sunflower stalks to the railing, Henry comes to tell me that this is all a gift. I try to say thank you, but the words are stuck. My mouth is open, and I'm suddenly some kind of fish out of water. You can't see the hook, but it must be my cheek. Or maybe it's in my heart, because that's being pulled. Henry puts his arm around my shoulder and whispers, "You're welcome." It takes almost 4 hours to plant all the stuff, but the day is not over. As another surprise, Lorenzo from Bakersfield Electric brings a set of solar-powered lights, which at night will send shafts up through the foliage into the starry sky. It is all so much more than I hoped for. Lorenzo says that the nursery guys called him. He explains about something called the Favor Bank. I haven't heard about this before, but I'm thinking that I have a lot of accounts with people at this point. I watch as Lorenzo puts the light fixtures in place, but I can't stop myself and I end up moving them around so they are just where I think they should be. I explain that I like to see space in terms of triangles, and he listens for a while and then laughs. When we finish, he gives me his card and says he wants to talk to me about a big lighting job he's bidding on at a new shopping complex. I tell him I'd be glad to look at his design sketches. It can be part of my Favor Bank. After he's gone, I water everything with the hose Henry left for me. I'm just finishing when Maya comes down the sidewalk. I go out through the gate and she follows me inside. I wish that Henry and Phil and Lorenzo and the guys had all stayed. They deserve to see the look on her face. We sit on the stairs and watch as people arrive home. Everyone is pretty much stunned. I decide not to run my mile, so I'm here when Kwang Ha comes in. He doesn't say a single word. I wait. He's still silent as he takes a seat next to me on the stairs. More silence. Then he turns and says, "I don't want to know how you did it. I want to believe that you're magic." Maybe because he's older and a boy, and maybe because he wasn't really on board with me coming to stay with them, I feel something wash over me when I hear the words. I think the feeling is acceptance. The 3 of us are all together on the steps when Dell comes in from the carport. I guess he knew something was going to happen. He says that Henry called him. I can't believe he was able to keep any kind of secret. Dell is very, very happy when he sees the plants. Mai uses Dell's cell phone to tell her mom to come home early. She wants her to get a view of this garden in the daylight. Patty makes it to the apartment just as the horizon is going purple. There are streaks of color overhead as she looks up into the darkening sky. She says, "It's no longer wrong to call this place the Gardens of Glenwood." We go upstairs together, and I take Cheddar and lie down on my bed. I'm exhausted. So is Cheddar, I think, but snoozing is his default setting, so I can't be sure. I fall asleep even though I haven't eaten dinner and it's barely dark outside. I wake up to the sound of the television and the smell of popcorn. Kwang Ho appears in the doorway and says, "Dell put up the building rep sign again in front of the best parking spot." We look right at each other. We are laughing, but with our eyes.